Hey guys, I'm Chef D-Max. Welcome back to my kitchen. Today, something super simple, a basic that we all love, mashed potatoes. So I'm going to show you how to make the creamiest mashed potatoes that you've ever made before. And you're going to love these anytime you have a piece of roasted meat or during the holidays. This mashed potato is perfect. So let's get this started. Click subscribe if you're not doing that already. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video and ring that bell and I'll send you new stuff coming up. And I'll see you back in a second. Okay guys, back in the kitchen here, and we're gonna do some mashed potatoes. So when we do mashed potatoes, one of the things that I like to use are these food mills like this. This kind of just creates the potato between these holes. You see that? See the holes in there? And it just kind of grinds them through. Now you can use a potato press as well. Sometimes if you're doing just for two people, but a potato press is the easiest. You just put it in, press it through, it does the same thing. But sometimes when you're doing, you know, like for 8 or 10 people, these are better and they're pretty cheap. So just pick one up online and you'll check it out. So here I've got, let me show you what I have. I have potatoes boiling in here and they are just peeled, regular Idaho potatoes peeled. And when I poke them like that, you can see they're falling apart. So I know they're done. So what I'm gonna do, salted water, plenty of water, you see that? Potatoes are in here. You bring them to a boil, you put them in cold water, salt, bring them to a boil, let them simmer for about 10 minutes until they're done. You poke them with a fork like that and they're done in the center. We're gonna pour those out, so I'll be right back. So I'm back, I've strained these, and you can see that I've got, here, let me move them here in front of me. I have a sheet pan. Why do I have a sheet pan? Because the reason potatoes are creamy and stay creamy, it's all about physics, right? And chemistry, it's really physics. You have basically, right now, the potatoes have been cooked in water. So they're full of water, right? In there. They've absorbed the water while they're cooking, so there's a lot of water. See it all steaming off? They're hot, so they're steaming that water off. So what happens is, if you take the potato like this, and you just mill it really quick, it still has water in it, right? And then you add butter and cream. Because the water's in there and you're adding butter and cream, it seems really creamy, right? And you taste it and you're like, oh wow, this is creamy. It's the right texture, I want it. And then you let it sit for about 8 to 10 minutes while your guests are waiting to have dinner. And the steam that comes off of there is all excess water. And what happens is the water leaves and then your potatoes are stiff because you couldn't put enough cream and butter in there because it had too much water in there. So what we want to do is take the water out. So one of the ways people do that is you'll see people sometimes bake the potato and they'll use a baked potato, but you can use a boiled potato like this. Put this back here. You can use a boiled potato like this, but I just put it on a sheet pan and I'm going to pop these in the oven and I'm going to let them sit in the oven for about maybe like 4 or 5 minutes tops. And what that's going to do is it's going to continue to heat the potato up, make sure it's really hot, and it's gonna evaporate the excess water. Now, what do we have here? I've got some cream, you can see, and it's basically at a light bubble, right? I don't wanna boil it. It's just on a low temperature with a lid on it. So all I'm really looking to do is add warm or hot cream to my dish, right? When I'm making these potatoes. Now, the other thing we need is cold butter. So I'm gonna grab some butter and I'll be right back. Okay, I've got my butter. Now, with the butter, I use a really nice grass-fed butter, and the butter has to be cold. So the process in which you make these potatoes, I'm going to cut, you can see how I'm cutting the butter to little knobs here. You can see how bright orange this is, and that's from this grass-fed butter, right? This Irish butter that's been from all grass-fed dairy cows, and what it does is that it makes a really dark orange butter. So it's really tasty too. And I use unsalted just because I like to salt it myself. This butter is really good. So it's also very firm. Now, you always use a wooden spoon right? And we're going to take these. Now mine kind of has these little kind of grips, but they don't quite fit this whole thing. So I'm going to use half of it, and the other half I'm just going to kind of make it happen, okay? So the butter, let me put this to the side, and we're going to bring our sheet pan and stick it right on this cutting board, so it's going to be hot, so we got to be careful. Okay, now that's probably good. You can see my potatoes steamed out a little bit. Excess water is disappearing, right? And I'm going to take these potatoes and stick them in my grinder here. You don't have to put in too much at a time, but it does grind pretty well. So I just put it in and make sure there's enough to fill it like this. Don't overdo it, right? And then you kind of work them around. Now see how I'm doing that? Now again, this thing isn't fit for this. It's actually fit for a smaller pot. But you know, I like to make things difficult. Okay. And it's going to drive the potatoes through. You see what that looks like? It's ricing them. They call this thing a ricer. You can make soups in this too. You can put soup in it. You can put all types of and grind in it. Okay, let me keep going. And sometimes you have to go backwards a little bit to get it to. Whoa! So this thing right here too, you can see has little kind of pieces on there that connect. You know what? I think I bent it. That's my problem. So this kind of stuff happens. You know what? That's why you always have to have a backup plan. One of the reasons, I can tell you right now, is that's in the wrong way. It needs to go in this way, right? Nope, that's not the right. That's not the reason. Yeah, it is. It has to go in upside down, like this. All right, well, let me clean this up and get it back together, and we'll be back in 1 second. All right, I'm back. So what I did was I had the grate in there backwards. So you know what? Everybody makes mistakes, even chefs. I've been doing this 30 years and still make mistakes all the time. So don't feel bad when you do stuff like that at home, because it happens to everybody, right? So I've got it in there now. Now watch how fast it comes through there now. Look, with no effort, and it drives the potato right through. Why? Because the grate's on the proper way. Okay? So when you notice something going wrong like that, then you know just to look and see, and check out your mechanics a little bit. It's weird because it feels and it looks like the blade should go the other direction, because it doesn't really have teeth on it like a cheese grate or anything. It's pretty flush. So you would think that it was, you think it was on right the other direction as well, but it's not. Because what happens is when you do this, it should just come easily through like it's doing here for me. You see how I don't even need to set it on there, right? And it just drives that potato right through, right? Now come back this way. If you come back the opposite way, what that does is it opens up the holes a little bit, and then it allows your potatoes to come through better. See, like that? All right. Makes a little bit of a mess, okay? So that's why you want to do this a little bit before your guests get there. Now I keep this sometimes, you can keep these like your potato in a double boiler. Like, so you could have a pot that's got like water on the bottom and another pot that fits into it with a lid. So once you make your mashed potatoes, put it in a double boiler like that with a lid on it, because you don't want air or water to escape, and you don't want to be boiling the water in there. You just want to keep it hot enough so the potato stays hot and creamy, and doesn't get cold, because if it gets cold, nobody likes cold mashed potatoes. So okay. That thing looks like it's going to pop out again on me. I get a little scared. Okay. Whenever you come backwards, it's always a little scary like that. But you can see how nice this is right now. You see how it just goes right through. I'll go through this with the potatoes. I want to get every little bit in there. Don't waste any. All right. So now you see it, right? My potatoes in here. Now I want to turn this on. I want to turn it on low. Why? Because I'm not looking to cook the potato. It's already cooked, right? I just want to, one, keep it warm, and two, I want to get my butter in here. So the butter, you put all your butter in here, and all these bits of butter, spread them out a little bit like this. Yum. I love butter. It looks like a lot of butter, right? Yeah, oh well. Mashed potatoes are not supposed to be good for you. Okay? So the butter, you're going to mash it around in here until it melts. So you have the hot potatoes. You have this on a warm stove top, right? And you're going to paddle these potatoes around. Okay? This is the key, right? I'm going to taste my potato. No, I put salt in the water, but I want to put a little salt in it now to get it, so it's seasoned. Okay, I want to put a little white pepper in too. I like white pepper in my mashed potatoes. Keeps it nice and clean looking, but it also, white pepper has a nice flavor as well. Okay, so with this, we're just going to keep stirring this around to get that pepper, salt, and butter nice and mixed in here. Now, why you add the butter, when you add it in cold, stays creamy now. If you have melted butter, it separates, and it doesn't work as well. It doesn't work to keep this potatoes the same amount of rich. And as weird as that sounds, I think this process really allows us to see how much butter is in there. It's like there's got to be a certain amount of butter. When I look at this, it needs to be buttery. And that's, for this was like 6 potatoes, 6 big Idaho potatoes, and 2 sticks of butter. So it's a half a pound of butter. Okay. Now my potatoes are getting super rich here. You can see, right? But the butter is not fully melted. You see the pieces there? So I want to keep melting my butter. Okay. Melt my butter in with my potatoes. Working my potatoes a little bit, making sure they stay creamy. Okay, when they get small enough, then we can start working in a little bit of the cream. So I've got my potatoes like that. Look at that, looking good. Now I'm going to take my cream. I'm going to take my hot cream, and I'm going to put in probably half. Okay. Work it in slowly with your wooden spoon. Don't spill it on yourself, right? Okay, I'm going to turn it down a little. Doesn't need to be that hot. Just needs to be keeping these warm. Because we don't want to let it get cold. Okay, you can see how I work this in really soft until the cream's worked in. Then I can speed it up a little bit, right? Then I want to add more. Probably half to what's left again. Now, how much cream? This is almost a quart of cream. I used about 3/4 of a quart of cream. So buy a quart of cream, put about 3/4 of it in there, and then you'll have extra if you need to add more to it, to your potatoes. Like if you did one more potato or one less. So remember too, I kind of cooked some of that water out. So we want to make the potato nice and creamy, and it's going to stay creamy as we keep it warm in this pot. So we'll put this pot on a double boiler and we'll make this super creamy. So look at these potatoes, you can see, look at that texture, right? Smooth, creamy potatoes, right? Look at that. Now, when it's done a little bit like this, you think it's done, right? But it's not. I'm going to add more cream. Because I like these potatoes super soft. And remember, all potatoes are going to stiffen up a little bit as you let them sit for a little while. So when you make your potato now, make it creamier because it's going to come together a little bit. It's going to firm up just a touch. It's not as much as if you left all the water in the potato, but so again, if you wanted to bake your potatoes and then peel them after, it will help to like keep less water in there. But it's a lot easier to boil them and then just dry them for a second. So look, you're seeing the potatoes really come together now. Like, look at that, right? But all this cream's going in there. Look at that. Bam. Now, it's going to be super soft now. And that's where I want it. Super soft mashed potatoes. Okay. Now, if you want to, you could add cheese to your mashed potatoes. I would recommend a very bright cheese that gives it flavor, where you don't have to add a lot of cheese. So I would add a brie, I would add a Gruyere grated in there, and not a lot. I would just, put a small amount. Look at this. Now what I want to do is add extra virgin olive oil, probably a couple tablespoons full. Okay. Look at that. You're going to make it all creamy and olive oily. That olive oil now, you want me to turn this off because I don't want to cook that olive oil flavor. I just want to impart that olive oil flavor in here, right? So you have some beautiful olive oil potato puree, and that, my friends, look at that. So that's the texture. You see? Do you see when you do that? It's kind of sits down. It doesn't just sit up like a stiff mashed potato. It's a very creamy mashed potato. Look at this. That's going to sit up. Beautiful. Now, I'm going to taste it. Wow, that's really good. Okay, so I want to add a little bit more salt. Maybe just a little bit more. A little bit more pepper. And that's it. It's got enough olive oil flavor, beautiful amount of butter and cream in there. And that, my friends, is perfect mashed potatoes. Look at that. Okay? So, now, the only difference is, if I was in my restaurant, I would make them pour this through a tammy so it's ultra smooth. There's no little lumps at all. This one is a little bit bigger holes, so you're going to get a little bit of pieces in it. But what a flavor. And when you see the texture, you see that? It's fantastic. So these mashed potatoes, big hit at your next party. Remember to keep those warm. Put them in a double boiler with a lid on there. Okay? And then right before you serve them, if you want to put a little bit more cream in, you could, or a little bit more butter in. That's fine as well. But try this next time you're at home. Super easy and fun to do. And your friends are going to love it. So I'll see you back in the kitchen soon. I'm Chef Teen Max.